All right, so let's get started. Um, Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about a topic that really has been widely discussed in the Black community and other communities, but has recently gained more momentum, and that is who will support Black women. Now, we know that Black women are amazing, resilient, intelligent, um, magical, and they don't necessarily need support. But some Black women more recently have brought a discussion to the table and said, listen, we don't need it, but we would like a little support. And why aren't we getting it? And today, to help us begin to unpack that topic, we have three amazing Black women entrepreneurs who work in the nonprofit sector, providing resources to members of the BIPOC community. And they're going to help us unpack this topic. They're also going to share their experiences and some of the challenges that they've experienced and how they've been successful in overcoming those challenges in entrepreneurship, also in the nonprofit sector. So we're really going to tackle this topic, looking at Black women, even in society that disrespects and often devalues Black women. These three women, like many other Black women, they continue to work toward a greater good for everyone. So we're also going to highlight that resilience as well. So now on to our panel. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Maya Hoskin, and I am an assistant professor of counseling, associate one day, once I get tenure, putting it out there in the universe, assistant professor of counseling. I'm also a Forbes contributor. I've written for publications such as Zora. I'm actually also a Zora contributor, Madame Noir, Vox, What to Expect, The Healthy. And really at the crux of my writing revolves around issues of white supremacy and anti-Blackness. And founded in my editorial writing is my research agenda. And that specifically is focused and targeted at examining the ways in which social media and mediated images of the Black community perpetuate various mental health diagnoses such as anxiety, racial battle fatigue, and depression. So I've kind of used my research to then inform my editorial writing, and definitely my research also informs my approach as an educator and also my approach as a therapist. So enough about me. Allow me to introduce our amazing panelists. We have Elise Fox, who is the founder of Sad Girls Club. We have Dina Perot, who is the founder of iUrban Teen and founding member of Black Women STEM 2.0. And we also have Chelsea Bonchaz, founder of hashtag Happy Period. And all women want to have that, right? So, but you know what? Women, please, ladies, allow me to give you the floor so you have an opportunity to provide more information about who you are and what it is that you do. At least if you could get us started.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I am Elise Fox, and I'm the founder of Sad Girls Club. And Sad Girls Club is a nonprofit org that I created in 2017 to show up for Black women and Black men in the mental health space. I always felt like, which is the truth, that Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole. And when resources or wellness events happen, we are seen as like parsley on the events. We're not the main target. And I wanted to build something that was targeted for people who look like me, so the younger generations can look up and say like, oh, this person has depression and anxiety and they are striving and thriving through it. And they also can find community through Sad Girls Club. So what we do today is we provide resources that are accessible to our community. We have a lot of digital resources. We offer group therapy initiatives. And then we also have, like, of course, like little fun kikis on Instagram and talks like that. So we keep it pretty down to earth, but our main target audience is Gen Z, millennials, BIPOC community, and just like really trying to bridge the gap and remove the stigma, and also share that it's important for people to show up for us, just as it's important for us to show up for ourselves. So this conversation is definitely needed, and it's something I completely resonate with.
Thank you, Elise. Dina.
Wonderful. Maya, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here today. And my name is Dina Puro, and I am a social impact entrepreneur. So, with all the programs that I have, they're all centered around equity, inclusion, and diversity. So, with iUrban Teen, we have an intentional reach to male youth of color, Black, Native American, and Latinx boys, and try to give them that pathway into STEM careers and opportunities, but we're inclusive. So 50% of our population are girls. We also work with youth with disabilities and youth who are deaf. And then with Black Women in STEM, we're at 2.0, we're an advocacy group for women and showing, again, networking opportunities, advocating for Black women in the workplace, et cetera. But I'm also a diversity consultant. So I work with companies on their equity initiatives. And and I do that on purpose because with intention, because I know that we have all of these students coming through iUrban Teen who are going to be in their places of employment at some time, at some point in their lives. I want them to walk in and thrive. So the best way to do that is to work with these companies now to prepare these students for their future careers within those organizations. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. Last but not least, Chelsea.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so, so much. Hey, everybody. I'm Chelsea Von Chaz. I'm the founder and CEO of Happy Period. Happy Period will actually be 6 years old next month. Really excited. We have definitely grown into something much bigger than what we initially thought we would be. We actually started out as a nonprofit that distributes period products to folks in need. We now act as a catalyst bridging access to menstrual health education for folks with periods as young as 9 years old. And we also are all about educating people about menstrual health and educating them about safe period products and also assisting them with their menstrual needs. This is really amazing because I actually started out as a wardrobe stylist and I got the call to action from the universe essentially to start Happy Period after I witnessed a homeless woman who did look like me free bleeding in the middle of Hollywood. So here we are now acting as a catalyst to bring period poverty to the forefront of issues.
Excellent. Thank you all. So kind of just to help everyone learn even more about some of the services that you offer, would you all care to just elaborate a little bit more about more specific resources that you offer the BIPOC community and really how, and Chelsea, you provide a lot of information about, what inspired you, but a little bit more information about what inspired you to work with the BIPOC community and how you see that your work has been beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, after doing the work for some time, I noticed that Black women, Black people with periods, we're a little bit behind when it comes to our menstrual health. We're definitely not encouraged to talk about our periods, but we also not really educated about our periods beyond even sexual health, even within the school system. So that's something that I noticed after doing the work for some time. On top of that, the fact that there's just a huge lack of resources. When we're talking about menstrual equity, we're talking about the affordability, accessibility, and the education of menstrual care, right? Black women pretty much have not really fit into that mold, besides just kind of being the body that was examined on or operated on, especially when it comes to modern gynecology as we know it now, right? So I just honestly saw this as a really big issue and within our community, and something that also disturbed me was that the menstrual equity space it's a fairly whitewashed space. It's mainly kind of made up of like feminism initiatives, and there's not really a lot of space for Black women, but we all know that Black women also have periods, right? So that's kind of like the lane of why it's so important for us to work in the advancement of menstrual health for Black people with periods.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I kind of want to add on to that on the reasons why for me at iUrban Teen, I was a commissioner here in the state of Washington on the Governor's Commission on African American Affairs. And at the time, all of our ethnic commissions were talking about the opportunity gap issue, especially for male youth of color. And so me being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs always want to find something to fix and create something that's going to improve a situation. And so I immediately started working in my community to make sure that our families knew about different educational opportunities. Then I was asked to participate on a Chief Information Officer Council in Portland. And when I walked into the room for the first meeting, it was a room full of white men. And so when I sat down, I thought, okay, so over here we have these youth that are being marginalized, disenfranchised, incarcerated, all these things that could happen. But here in this room is where the opportunities are. So how do I bridge this divide?
Mhm.
And during that lunch meeting is when I thought up iUrban Teen, and 6 months later, I launched it with the help of some of those men in the room. I launched it and never looked back. We've been growing for 10 years, 9,000 youth later, and about an 82% retention rate. So what we're doing is very much needed because our youth need help with that yellow brick road, for success. And that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Dina.
Yeah,
Ali.
and very similar to both of you amazing ladies. It's just, I found the beauty of the simplicity of like having space and holding space for someone else to completely be themselves is something that I learned through Sad Girls Club. And at our events, they're not like lavish $100,000 budget events. They're very intimate, very small in co-working spaces or in just one room. But I was able to learn how important it is to hold space for people to purge their emotions, to have these conversations, to say like, I can't talk about this at home, but I feel safe here to speak about it with you. And through the avenue of getting people the space to story tell and to really just purge what they're feeling in school, purge what they're feeling at home. It's been so beneficial to our community. And that's I think that's where we are, just like, how can we create space for this community? How can we create even more niche spaces for people who are marginalized? How can we create spaces for people who, identify as like non-binary, so they feel seen? And that's what we really try to do at Sad Girls Club. We want the community to know that they are seen. And I never want this club to feel like this is Elise Fox's club and all of my ideas are what you guys are going to learn about. I'm constantly digging into the community and asking them through polls and feedback, like, what do you want to know? What do you want to learn about? What isn't working? So I know how to improve. And that has been really, really beneficial for Sad Girls Club, because I think just holding space for Gen Z and millennials, or more specific Gen Z, who, don't have coin or money to like rent out a space and have like a kiki with their girls and not have their parents overhear them. That is really, really important for me. And I see it in like my niece and my niece and nephew, like when I pull them to the side and put them in my car, they can have this space to like feel safe with auntie and like talk about what's really going on without having someone on their back. So I feel like that's really what Sad Girls Club is. It's just holding space for you.
Yes, I love that. For you all as Black women working in this space, working with members of the BIPOC community, do you feel like working with this specific population helps you connect with them? Like, how does your identification as a Black woman intersect or influence or shape your work and how you approach your work with your people, with your peeps?
Well, I'll start off, the only thing I know is being a Black woman, right? And so, but I instantly saw, and it really wasn't until I moved to the Pacific Northwest. I moved up here from Compton. So it was a huge culture shock. So I really didn't know or see a lot of the inequities that happen in our community until I moved into such a white space. And so for me, my Blackness is what keeps me moving forward in this community with our youth, with our families. I lead with that first. So even though I do have a lot of networks that with people that don't look like me, they know that when I approach or enter into a room, I'm entering that room, I'm bringing my ancestors with me, and I'm bringing the future generation with me as well. So I lead with that. I don't what they call code switch. I don't do that at all.
Mhm.
So I've always been connected to my community, but I also help others as well. But I look at ours first.
Mhm.
I also feel like you feel as a Black woman, you feel for the next generation because you know how hard it is or how hard it was for you to get to where you are today. And I
Mhm.
always just look, I'm like, I don't want anyone to experience all the hardships that I have experienced, and what can I do to make it better? And I feel like that's the work that we are all doing. And I'm like gazing at Dina like, damn, I could do it now because I see that you're doing it, and obviously it's hard and it's a struggle, but this is also inspiring to me just to see other faces who have been doing it longer than me. So it's going to be that line of inspiration, and that's what I want to create. Just with like my brand, myself, with Sad Girls Club, I want that to be a source of inspiration, and just knowing firsthand what it's like and telling stories and hearing your experiences. I think we're on the right path. It's a struggle, but we are representing what we want to see in the future.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel everything that they are saying 110%. I definitely do my work from my womb, and I think for me it's just something I just can't turn off, and I don't want to turn off,
Mhm.
and I really feel like, us moving out into the world as Black women, deep down I just feel like, we are the most exotic, we're the blueprint, we're the first, as far as coming from our ancestors, whether you believe we all came from Africa or we're on this native lands, this native land, and then just my identity is more so surrounded in being indigenous and working from the room, and understanding that a lot of Black women before me, did not have the luxury of going to the gynecologist, did not have the luxury of having pads and tampons or a menstrual cup or period panties, like these amazing things that we have access to now. We did not, there's so many of us that our ancestors did not have that, not even anything close to it, So it's just really important for me to not forget that, not forget, where you come from, not forget what you stand by. And my grandma Josephine always said, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And I have to really think about that, when running an organization and being in the space. And even if spaces are a bit, whitewashed, I think it's just important for me to, even if I'm the only Black woman in the space, it's like, okay, I'm here. I still run this. Everybody still wants to be like me. There's somebody here that got their lips done to look like my lips. There's somebody here that got their ass shot to look like my butt,
Right.
so it's just like,
Period.
no matter what, like I'm the blueprint, and I really deserve to be here in this space. So I have to move from the womb, and I have to move from my indigenous identity. I just don't turn that off at all.
I love that. And then working from the womb. I love it. I love it. That's so powerful. So as I'm listening to y'all talk, it's just further confirmation of, just really how resilient, that word just keeps popping up in my mind, resilient Black women are, and how we will make something out of nothing, something out of anything. At the same time, I can't help but to think, even from personal experience, that load gets heavy, right? So we're carrying it, but it gets heavy. And so I wonder, what have your experiences been in terms of the emotional toll or any other existential challenges that y'all might have experienced as a result of the magnitude and the intimacy of the work that you do?
I can start off this one. As I believe my organization is the youngest out of the three of us, but I feel an immense amount of like imposter syndrome a lot of the times, in the sense that like I am in the space, we're all in the space of wellness, which is already a whitewashed space. We aren't prioritizing this space, which is why we created what we created. Um, but it also becomes, I lost my train of thought. It also becomes just like incredibly heavy knowing that you are helping out X amount of people, and you feel the weight of like, damn, if this thing doesn't exist, what's going to happen to these people? What happens after? What's the next? You know what I mean? So you feel that the work that you're doing is important, it is needed, it is valuable, but sometimes you don't have the support that you really, really need, even when you ask for it, you know, even when you're upfront about what your numbers are and what you have accomplished and what your goals are, you might not get the same support as the white woman who just started her, you know, like last month, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's very discouraging in those ways when you just see a company and they're making six figures in the next like couple of months and you're just like, damn, I can't even get like a $10,000, you know, grant, and I'm doing the work and I'm putting it in. So I would say imposter syndrome is a huge thing. But as Chelsea said, I'm like, when she's like, I walk in the room and I'm like, I'm the baddest one here, and da, 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 like that's exactly what I need to do more of. You know what I mean? Like I just really feel like I can do more of that. But it's also been a struggle. I feel like as all entrepreneurs, you feel like, you know, am I doing enough? And then when you do enough, it's like, what's next?
Thank you, Elise.
No, I agree. I think that the emotional toll can be huge. It really can be huge. And, you know, as I was mentioning in some of our other conversations, that to really, really intentionally practice the self-care. And that's something that I'm learning now, you know, is because I worked so hard and I was really wanting to prove a point that I could do this, right? And so the emotional toll of working 7 days a week, you know, 16 hours a day, 10 years straight, no breaks, no vacations, no nothing, that does take a huge toll on you. Your creativity starts to suffer and all, but thank goodness I'm practicing self-care. And just like what Elsie was saying, Elise was saying, that is, you know, you see these other groups that are starting these organizations, and even before they launch, they've got major funding, you know, and you have nothing. And when you're trying to have events for our youth, our Black youth, and you see a dog show that's getting, you know, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars for a dog show, and you can't even get 5,000 to have, you know, this major event, it really works on you. It really does. So it discourages you. And I oftentimes would say, am I doing the right thing? You know, and something internally said, yes, you are. Just keep going, keep building, keep going, keep building, you know. But again, we really do need that tribe of support around us. And we need to be intentional on building that tribe, you know, around you of support as well.
Absolutely.
I agree. Dina, I love your example as far as, you know, funding for a program for kids versus like funding for a program that a nonprofit may have that's centered on like a dog show or an event towards animals. I see it all the time. I'm always like, but what about the humans? What about the actual humans that are here? You know, the future, right? Yeah, it's funny. I bring up the word audacity a lot when dealing with this. Like, you know, people have the audacity to feel like you should not be able to make money because you run an organization or you have a nonprofit. You know, they look at nonprofit and just feel like, oh, well, you shouldn't make any money, or you shouldn't really, you know, it's all about we are the world and, you know, hippie love, and we don't need money, we don't need the energy. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. I need as much funding as I can get, you know, especially if I'm the person that is of the community, from the community. You know, it's not just about Black serving. You know, we need to focus on Black led initiatives, because white led initiatives that have Black serving goals does not equal impact to me, especially when in the end, those folks are still underserved. They're still in the same boat, you know. And I think a lot of white-led initiatives like to just give people fish and not teach people how to fish. And I just think that's just something that we have to really call out, you know, because that takes away from what we're doing, because there's something that they could be doing because they have the power, they have the money and the connections, but they're still not going to actually make an impact because they are not of the community that they're serving, or they are not of the culture. And we have to really let them know, like, you know, you're still a colonizer going to Kenya with all these menstrual cups, pads, and tampons for these girls. You know, you do not look like them. Therefore, there's no way that you can establish trust. So I think as far as like the emotional health of all this for me, is just important for me and other folks, I think, to just develop some thick skin and really stand, stand with your ancestors, stand for it, you know what I mean? Because you're gonna have people that may feel like, you don't deserve, and you have to remind them like, no, I do deserve. And also on top of that, I actually have more rights and a voice to do this work than you do, because this is my culture and this is my community.
You know what? And y'all are gonna have to forgive me, because like the counselor in me is thinking, I hear it, I hear strong strength, da, 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 da. But I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, this is just, to me, because as y'all talking, I'm like in my mind, like unpacking, like, uh-huh. And I can't help but to think this just sounds heavy. And to even say we have to have thick skin, and sure enough, we all, have to have thick skin, regardless of race, regardless of biological sex, gender, what have you. But the weight that Black women carry, is just, it emanates. The weight that you all are carrying, it just emanates through yours. So although you have your armor on, like I feel y'all, but I gotta call it out. I hear it, I feel it just as I'm listening. And Elise, you're not alone. Like, many of us struggle with imposter syndrome. I've been teaching at the college level for 7 years now, and I still, struggle with imposter syndrome, especially in the white ivory towers, So, I mean, it's difficult, and it's heavy, and it's challenging, and it's tiring. But I give it to y'all, because so with that said, do you all overall feel supported in the work that you do?
Yeah, I definitely would say absolutely. Now that there's more awareness surrounding. I think what really helps with that support is that there's a lot more awareness surrounding the issue that we're tackling. You know what I mean? So, I definitely still feel like there's very few of us within this space, not necessarily the nonprofit space or nonprofit sector, but just specifically within the lane that I'm in, excuse me, the lane that I'm in with menstrual equity. There's definitely not a lot of us that are in this fight. But what I will say though, the handful of us, the family, the tribe, we actually do act as a tribe. We all know each other. We always check in. We're always supporting one another, updating each other on on initiatives, and I think that's really important for us too. It's actually a code I feel like all Black women kind of follow, no matter what industry we're in. I feel like all the Black hairstylists know each other, stylists, makeup artists, doctors, everyone hangs out and kind of exchanges stories, and we're venting. It's super necessary, right? But from my community, I definitely feel supported within my culture, within my people. Yes. From the outside, no, not even close. I still find myself having to explain, this is how you can support me, long term. This is how you can really make an impact. And I'm talking about, when talking to corporate brands, other organizations, large foundations, right? And everything in between. There's still a huge lack of support there. And I think that's just, maybe it may stem from racism, sexism. It may stem from misinformation or ignorance, people not necessarily knowing how to support Black women that run nonprofit organizations. I also feel like it's a huge issue surrounding white saviorism within the nonprofit sector. And that's a huge reason why we don't really have that much support. So yeah, white people have a long way to go with me as far as figuring out how to support me. But hey, I'm here willing to let you know. But I don't know. What about you ladies? Do y'all feel supported? It's kind of half and half with me.
Well, like you, I feel supported within our culture, within our group. And there's growing support outside of our group with different people within corporations, that we're partnering with, but it's still not the major support, that we need. But that white saviorism is real. Oh my God, it is so real. And for me, I noticed, all through the years and even now, occasionally I'll find them that will want to mentor me, right? They want to mentor us, but will they sponsor us? No. Is there any financial gain attached to that mentorship? Usually no, right? And I'm like at a point in my career that, hey, I can mentor you. I don't need you as a mentor, really. So that's one of the issues that I find. Or if they want to give you advice because they want you to lead in their way, their direction, and you don't, then there goes that lack of that support's gone, right? So that white saviorism is huge in the nonprofit space.
Yeah, I feel what both of you said for sure. I think that because I'm still trying to navigate and find the mentors that are going to be here for the long run, not just for the season. And that's been something I've been experiencing is that brands want to work with you. Oh, because it's Black History Month. Oh, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Oh, it's Day of the Woman. And I'm like, I don't want to be parsley anymore. I want to be. If you want to support us, this is not a year-long commitment. This isn't a 2-year thing. This is a commitment, a lifelong commitment. Like mental health is going to be something that we all deal with for a very long time. And why is it? It's like I don't know, it's so hard to like pull a coin out of a white person or a white organization sometimes. And it's very interesting because I know we have the numbers, we have the results, we have the stories to tell and to show and prove what we've done. And as you said, I feel very supported by my community, and that makes me continue to do the work that I'm doing. If I didn't have the support from the community, there will be hardly any support at all. And I don't think that it should just only come from that one place. And that's not how we grow at the rate that I know we want to grow. We're making it work with what we have and the resources we have, but it's all going to come down to financial support and consistent financial support. So the programs that we are developing, they aren't just for a couple of months or 6 months. It's going to be something that people can look forward to, generations can look forward to, just like the other big organizations that you see on TV who fundraise millions of dollars every single year.
As you all were talking, something came to mind, and it's kind of like on this continuum of white folks who are either, we butt up against that white saviorism piece, that kind of almost performative activism, right? I want to feel like the good white person, right? So I'm going to support you and I'm going to reach out to you. But then what does support look like? And essentially, maybe words of wisdom. As Dina said, mentorship, and Dina's like, listen, I don't need your mentorship. I need the funding, because as Chelsea also said, that's what keeps everything afloat, but there's not as much support, or it's definitely a lot more challenging to get that financial support, when a lot of these corporations are making money, are making a profit off of Blackness in a lot of ways, commodifying Blackness in a multitude of ways and making money, but not wanting to give back to. So, I'm hearing that thread there. That said, and even looking at, race more in depth, we have experienced a lot of changes of awareness in our socio-political and socio-cultural climate. We've had 2 administrations come and go in just 4 or 5 years. Although anti-Black racism has, although the country is founded in anti-Black racism, but it has come to the forefront and awareness of many recently, in June, with the murder of George Floyd. And so we've seen a lot of civil unrest, the Capitol failed insurrection. We've seen these things that have taken place where we would have never thought some of these incidents would ever happen in our lifetime, coupled with the pandemic. What trends or shifts have you seen within your clients and within your respective areas as a result of some of these climate changes that the country has experienced overall?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to jump in there because, I've seen so many changes, in society. But more so for us, for Black women, I think that we're the flavor of the month right now. But are we going to get our just rewards for being this flavor of the month? Or are we going to be, is it going to be a different flavor next month, right? But one of the positives, really positives that I've seen of this crazy 2020 year was that I felt that collectively, our folks have come together. It's almost like we need this partnership with each other, this communal support and love of each other because of what we've gone through, not just in 2020, but what we've gone through for centuries, for decades. I feel that there has been a disconnect in our community of us, a lack of support for each other's efforts over the years. Somewhere there was a disconnect, but I felt internally, I felt this pull that we were coming back together. So that was one of the big pluses for me. The other big plus was, I did have a lot of organizations, and I call it guilt money, I guess, that was donating to iUrban Teen after George Floyd.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So I saw that turn. I saw that however, I did see a lot of white communities, people that really felt the pain of George Floyd. They really wanted to try to make an impact, make a change for themselves by coming and partnering with iUrban Teen, with contracting with me to do equity work, for their organizations. And the beauty of that, like with one client, working with them, they had 48 internal employees in this cohort that was going to revise and review their processes and look at it with an equity lens. 46 of that 48 were white men all around the world. And I tell you, they mean this. They're not just there for show. They are really wanting to make a change. So for me to have that many white men in this collective, it was inspiring.
Mm. Anyone else?
Whew. Well, yeah, I definitely took a lot of white guilt money for sure. Still taking it, still kind of planting these seeds because, I think it's important for folks to not, yes, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were a moment. But my thing is, I think folks need to realize that that's still our reality, and it's been our reality for a very long time. And I think, it's important for brands to continue to sit in that, and foundations to also continue to sit in that, especially if they are, choosing to serve Black and Brown communities, and I did see that shift, because to me, performative allyship, performative activism has always been around in any space with LGBTQIA+, menstrual equity space, homelessness issue, food poverty. It's all up and through there in so many ways. So I think it's important for us to really call it out when we see it. Even when we see it within our community, because a lot of times there's an issue with Black leadership in certain communities that will take the money from white folks and allow them to come in with their own agenda, and that's not really positive, in the end, long term, as far as some type of impact, because now it's not about us, it's about them and what they think we need, and that's the huge issue for me, right? So I guess to add a couple of positives to that, or as far as this shift, I see the shift in education, folks really educating themselves about certain issues, and figuring out what it is that they can do to make the world better, or to make their community better. I also see a lot of folks taking initiative and actually starting their own nonprofits, or starting their own initiatives within their own communities, because they see that there's really no point in waiting on anybody to come and save you. It's all about you. So I'm still kind of, viewing things a little differently after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, because I still believe that, they and hundreds and thousands of others deserve justice, and they deserve for us to talk about them all the time, beyond them being a hashtag. But within the space that we in, we're just gonna have to continue calling this out, because it hasn't stopped. Police brutality has not stopped since George Floyd. We still have these issues. Racism and sexism is still around. So yeah, it's really tough, but I think it's so important for us to continue to call these things out when we see them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Elise, did you want to add anything?
Dina and Chelsea said everything that was on my mind perfectly, to be honest. I don't want to repeat, but they said it so beautifully.
Yeah, and I think, this has been, I think, the kind of a perfect storm of really years and decades of social turmoil that's kind of been below the surface, and I love, Obama. I love, but I think with his administration, he did usher in kind of this feeling and this motivation to unify. And those who are not with that, they kind of just fell to the back, right? Because it wasn't PC to not fall in line with that script, right? With those. And when he left office, I think it became, those folks were given a license to emerge. Those and other folks with questionable perspectives were given a license to emerge from kind of being, hidden a little bit. And we've seen kind of, and then with exacerbated by the pandemic and other, we've seen kind of this emergence. But it really is refreshing to hear that there are individuals and corporations, specifically white folks, who are stepping up and who are saying, okay, I might have not known last year, I might have not known 6 months ago, but I know now, my eyes are open, and I want to support, and I want to do what I can for this community. And so that is definitely refreshing to hear. One question I want to ask you all, just really quickly, for those of you who have received funding and support in response to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and police brutality. And Chelsea, you're right, it's not gone anywhere, because we have the incident just yesterday of the 9-year-old girl, but we won't go there. But do you all have any suggestions on when contacting, or how to make those contacts, how to create those networks of individuals to create those relationships for support? And once you have created those relationships, how do you approach them for support?
Well, I'm going to start off, because I'm pretty brazen with my ask of people. I would say for advice, if I'm sharing advice for others, is to be clear on what your needs are, right? Be very clear. This is what my vision is. This is what I want to achieve. Write that down so that you have it embedded, within yourself. Then I try to find the people within organizations that I feel can best help with that trajectory. And so I just approach them either on LinkedIn or at an event or something. And I'm very clear with them on who I am, what my organization is, and what my need is, And I will say, are you the point person within your organization that can help make this happen? If not, who would you suggest that I reach out to? I just say it. I don't beat around the bush. I don't, because that's wasting my time and their time. So I would say be very clear, do some soul searching, be very clear on what it is that you want within your organization. Find out who those people are, and they may not look like us. So you have to be very comfortable with approaching them and approaching them boldly and making that ask. I always tell people it's an automatic no if you don't ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes. I've had to become more I'm still doing it, like still becoming more comfortable with asking for help and being very upfront with the help that I do need. I think it might be a Capricorn thing, but I'm very just like, I could do it, do it. And then I'm like, no, you can't do this. You can't run this shit by yourself. So I'm like, and this is something that's still new for me. I'm like asking for favors. If I know a friend who works at Target, like I'm gonna email them, hey, Sad Girls Club needs support. This is what we need. Who do I talk to? Very similar to what Dean is doing, but it's taken me a little bit longer to get to that point. And I feel like that's the imposter syndrome and everything else that we experience as Black founders, that we have to kind of work through. But just finding the allyship, and sometimes people are waiting for you to ask. Like, these white companies want to work with Black youth. They want to be saviors in some way. But if you're able to control the narrative and you're able to control how involved they are, but still receive the support, that's something that you can outline before even going into the conversation. So like, yeah, I'd love to work with you. Yeah, it's amazing, cool. Yeah, you want to help out, whatever. You could stand to the side. This is what we need, and then you can say that you help with this project. So kind of just letting them strip off the actual branding from their end and saying like, this is the end goal. This is what this is going towards. And it's nothing about fanfare. It's not going to be a whole Instagram thing. This is for our people. We don't record these sessions. It's just for them, but just know in your heart that this money is going to our cause. But it is a struggle. I don't know if it's like that for new founders, but for me, it's been really hard to just be very upfront and blunt. But I guess it comes with time, as Dina said, and not beating around the bush.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's funny, like especially when it's a corporate brand that could potentially be a sponsor, right, or a foundation that could potentially become a donor. It's kind of funny to me, like especially after all of these things happen in 2020, they're still asking, well, what can we do, to make this better or to right this wrong? What can we do to serve you? Is there something that I can do as a white person, or as a majority, white brand, or a brand that's diverse? What can we do to right this wrong within this space, within the community? And I always and I get so tired of that question. I'll be honest, I can't stand that question. And I always hit them back with, well, what are you going to do? What can you do? What is your bandwidth? What does your bank account look like as far as the budget for your quarter to donate, or because I can be telling you all of my ideas and you can turn around and steal them. You can turn around and do them with another brand or another organization, and there's no protection for me, right? So I always hit them back like, well, I think you need to think about what your bandwidth is and what you can actually do for me, because right now my plate is full. And I really don't have time to brainstorm with you. And I definitely don't feel like allowing you to pick my brain. That happens a little bit too much. So I always say that to folks who are, thinking about starting nonprofits, who have the connections with brands already, or folks that have already started nonprofits and they're trying to figure out, how can I leverage, this, or how can I monetize this opportunity? It's like, hey, have your own list of ideas of things that you need, your goals, your asks, or, whatever that looks like, and take it back to a lot of these foundations and these brands that are hitting you up because they want to get involved. From press to fundraising, you have the power to ask for what you want, but don't allow them to, to kind of like pigeonhole you into doing something just so they can have a cute little impact report at the end of the year, because it's more so about impact for you and your community, because you're the powerhouse, you're the organization, right? So I think it's really important for folks to really step into that and own it when they're trying to, secure partnerships and move forward to actually make an impact that works for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we're wrapping up, reflecting on some of your experiences and maybe challenges that you have faced, what are some other suggestions that you would give to Black women who are in the starting phases, or even playing with the idea of becoming founders and entrepreneurs? What would be some words of wisdom and nuggets, golden nuggets?
I have to keep it 100. Not everybody is made for this. It's not easy. It's not cute. It's not glamorous. Like we look beautiful right now, but we are tired. We are tired on the inside. We are screaming. It is not made for everybody. But no, I don't like to paint this pretty picture of running a charity, because it's not pretty. It can be super I think we all here work and walk in our purpose, and we know who we are, so we're good there. However, we definitely experience these just, it's always a constant challenge, right? So I always, especially folks that are looking into start their own nonprofits, it's like, ask yourself a couple questions, but the main question you need to ask yourself is, can I be passionate about this particular issue, community, or organization for a very long time? Not just for a week, not just for a month, not just because Instagram is talking about it. Beyond all of that, can I be passionate about this cause, issue, organization, or community for an extremely long time? And does it keep me up at night? Does this issue bother me? Does this idea, is it burning in my stomach? Can I just cannot stop thinking about it? If the answer to that is yes, and you really are passionate about it, then you can definitely move on with that. But I think the issue is, a lot of folks, they don't really ask themselves that question and really sit in and think about it. And they just kind of, focus on whatever is, because it's kind of cool to care right now. Whatever the hot topic is, whether it's police brutality, or diversity training and inclusion for companies, and so many other things. It's cool to care. So for someone who's starting an organization, you need to really push in on that cool to care and say, oh no, this is reality for me. This is my everyday, this is my full-on purpose. I can find 101 million other issues within this one topic, within homelessness or menstrual equity. Like, really own in on that is extremely important, in my opinion.
I want to add to that too, and what Chelsea was saying, that this isn't made for everyone. I mean, you really have to be halfway crazy to lead an organization or even start one. If I would have known how difficult it was, 15 years ago, when I was first thinking about starting a business and then starting a nonprofit, I may not have done it if I knew then what I know now. However, I'm glad that I did. But I feel that everyone has a leadership gene in them, but you don't have to be the leader of an organization. You can come in and lead the financial services part of it. You can come in and lead the HR part of it. You can lead, the administrative part of it, if it is something that you're passionate about, an organization's mission that you're passionate about. But I would say the other thing too is, if you do decide for that care project or that thing that you have this dying passion for, is to also look around and try to find people that share your rhythm, right? Try to find people that can move forward with you without the barriers, without the, no, that's not going to work. No, you can't do, no, with all of that, get rid of all of that. And the other thing too is to really do some soul searching on what it is, what's your mission, what you want to do, and then get advice from people that have experience in that space. I made the mistake of asking anybody any question who had no idea where I was going. They had no idea. So the information I was getting was actually throwing me off track, until I had to build up the confidence in myself to know that I got this, right? And I could move forward. So again, getting the confidence to know your skill set. Go ask for people that can help, that share your rhythm, right? But also know that this is difficult work. When you're serious, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I know we have like 1 minute left, but I would just say, go with your gut. A lot of the times, majority of the time, my gut has been right. Move with intention, and find your tribe. As Dina said, find your people who aren't going to naysay or are going to pick apart everything you're trying to do. You want people who are adding to your ideas, not deducting or making you feel bad for them. That would be like my simple advice.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all so much for sitting with me today to unpack this huge, massive topic. I know we could go on and on for hours, but I definitely appreciate your time and your wisdom and just sharing your stories and holding space with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.